Welcome to Prevail News Interviews. Today we are on location at Keystone Food Shelf on University Avenue in St. Paul. My guest today is Christine Pulver, Director of Basic Needs for Keystone. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you, Arthur.
So today we're going to talk about food insecurity. Christine, let's start talking about the recent proposed changes by the White House regarding the SNAP program, which I believe is known as EBT here in Minnesota. With the requirements are going to change to a work requirement for people who are single and do not have children. Now, do you feel here at Keystone that this is going to prompt a rise in food shelf use for people that are going to lose their access to EBT benefits?
Absolutely. We are concerned that any change to the SNAP benefit program will reach an increase in the need for our services. The majority of participants in our program are already accessing SNAP benefits, but for some single adults, that can be as low as $16 per month, which, as you know, doesn't cover a full grocery store shop. But it does help provide one more source of food that people can piece together to cover a full month.
And one of the things here at Keystone I want to ask about is how much do you guys have educational programming to help recipients understand? Because one of the things I've learned is a lot of programs around the nation. One of the problems is that activists have pointed out about the low number of benefits. And the problem is if you look at the name, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the key word is supplemental. It's supposed to meant to supplement what people have, but a lot of people, unfortunately, the money they get from SNAP or EBT, that's their entire food budget, which makes it very, very difficult to have any sort of food that's got any sustenance to it.
Yes. SNAP is a supplemental program. Our food shelf is also a supplemental program. It is one more source of food that people can use. I mean, there is no program that will provide all of what someone needs. And so we do provide information about SNAP benefits. We do some screening for people who aren't currently using the program to give them an idea of what their benefit level might be. And as soon as more information becomes available on these proposed able-bodied adults without dependent changes, we will get that information out to participants also. Okay.
And another thing, too, I was wondering as far as the last year they were proposing some sort of thing, and I don't know, I'm glad it didn't go into place, but they were talking about some blue box where they were going to have, everyone's going to get the same amount of food. It was going to be, I mean, it seems very odd that a place has it, because one thing I know about Keystone, you've been in operation for 80 years.
Yes.
You serve about 23,000 people annually, and you service people from a wide variety of cultures, religions. People, it'd be very impossible, I think, to have a thing of where every single family would get the same food.
Absolutely. There is no one size fits all for food. The food you eat each month is the different than I eat each month, than anyone else needs per month. It's a very customized, very personal choice. And so our food shelves are set up as a 100% client choice environment where participants are able to shop and make their own selections according to what they need for their health, for their preference, for their cultural foodways, and also what access they have to food preparation facilities. And so there's no one-size-fits-all cookie cutter that's going to fit. That box would have been appropriate for who? I mean, if you have certain dietary needs, if you have certain cultural food practices, would that box have worked for you, or would have just incurred more food waste?
Another thing, today we're in beginning of February. About over 4 months ago, remember the Walmart closed over by Lions Field. And I'm guessing that and Walmart was, I mean, for all its faults, it did serve as a very good place for affordable food shopping. I'm assuming that when that closed, that really hurt your clientele a lot.
Well, it wasn't the only retail food option that we've lost here in the Midway. We lost another major grocery store with redevelopment, or actually maybe changes in the chain would be a better description. And so we just have less accessible retail food options for the Midway neighborhood.
Okay.
And when you come up with less accessible options, it means you have less access to healthy food choices, and you become more dependent on the corner store with highly processed food.
Yeah, because that is one of the areas that a lot of people are concerned about. Some parts that are considered food deserts,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think we're in that area here, but we're darn close.
We're not in a food desert yet. We still have access to full-service grocery stores in this neighborhood, and the changes in mass transit in this area have helped give more access to retail food choices. But it is disheartening to see this trend going as more and more of those retailers are offering locations in more suburban locations.
So when you look, I know within about a mile from here, over on Snelling Avenue, you have Whole Foods there, and they have several around the Twin Cities. Do you find that kind of helps or hinders as far as the choices that your clients have? Because Whole Foods does have a lot of healthy options, but they are not the most affordable.
Mm-hmm. We haven't really seen much change as far as food access for our participants with the opening of that Whole Foods location. They have been a donor to our program, so that has made them a good neighbor for us.
One program I know that a lot of food banks try to promote is there's a lot of partnerships with farmers markets in both Minneapolis and St. Paul. And in Minnesota here, I do believe there is a program which both cities have where you can use your EBT benefits and you actually get, I believe, double the dollar value toward the purchase of fresh produce. Is that something you try to work with your clients to promote?
Yes, we do give information about the EBT bonus bucks for the farmers market every year. There are some changes each year to that program, and we try to get that information out so that people can use that benefit as much as possible. We also receive donations from farmers markets for our program, which helps increase the amount of fresh produce that we have available for our participants.
And going forward, I know that, like I said, you have a lot of different people that come here, different cultures. What changes usually, what are some of the different ways? You've been around for 80 years, so what are some of the changes that you've seen?
Well, changes with cultural food needs have been pretty consistent over that period of time. Our neighborhood is in a constant state of change, but we have found that sometimes the most basic foods are the most accessible across cultural groups. You know, very, very basic things such as dairy products, fresh produce, whole grain products such as pasta and rice are accessible for most cultural foodways.
And as people are starting to watch their grocery budgets more, do you think that there's going to be more need or more structuring by the grocery industry to help with pricing? Because the big problem is a lot of people, I know that there are some stores around the country, particularly major cities like Chicago, where they have a very sizable number of their clientele that get EBT or SNAP benefits. And they structure there's one store in, I think, Chicago that actually opens on the 1st when everyone gets their benefits. Which, I mean, it's a good idea, but at the same time, is that really the best thing for the clients?
That's an interesting story because I'm not sure how a business with that structure would operate for the rest of the month. It's not much of what we see on our end since we're not at the retail front.
Yeah, and that is a big problem I see too, is that a lot of people will go out, and maybe you've seen this too, is where people that get benefits they'll get all their stuff at the beginning of the month, and then when the later weeks come in, they're not able to go, obviously, to the store. And I always tell people to try to get, go at least once a week. Because grocery stores do have sales, every week. And something that may have been, you can get macaroni cheese. It may be $1 the first week of the month, and you might have down to, 50 cents at the end, and you can get a lot more.
10 years ago, we saw our busiest week was the first week of the month. And then it would sort of taper off toward the end of the month. And that has changed for us over the last 10 years to where every day is busy or every day could be busy. It's not just the beginning of the month. It's not just the end of the month. People are in need every day.
One thing I'm wondering about, we're in February. We're coming up into the summer months in a few months. And obviously with school children being out for summer vacation, does that put also more pressure on here because of the fact that many students might get federally funded breakfast and lunch after school, and then obviously won't have that?
Absolutely. You just hit it right on the head. So our busiest months of the year are during the summer. Sometime between May and September, we will have our busiest service month of the year because children are getting out of school and they're not getting that free breakfast and lunch anymore. And now families need to provide 3 meals a day for their kids, which is a stretch for many of our participating families.
All right. Now, as I said, we're on location here. What are some of the different features that you have here for at Keystone? Can you explain some of them?
Oh, certainly. So each of our bricks and mortar food shelf sites operates as a walk-in, no appointment needed service. You come and see us the day you have a crisis. You don't schedule your crisis 2 weeks out. So you need food, come and see us today. And then when you come in, you do a brief intake with one of our staff, and you're given a shopping list. So there's a different shopping list for every household according to the number of people in their household. Okay. And that shopping list will take you through the food shelf and tell you the number of choices from each category. And that helps us give everyone an equal access to some of those highly desirable foods, but also helps us shift nutrition just a little bit toward healthier choices. You know, more vegetables, fewer chips.
Yeah. And another thing too, here in St. Paul, there's a number of colleges. Many of them on the southern part of the city, and granted, most of them are private schools. But one of the big things around not just the Twin Cities, but around the nation, there's a lot of colleges where they have like food pantries, stuff like that. Do you work with any of the colleges in case there are students there that might be suffering from food insecurity?
Yes, we do. And that brings us to another part of our program. We have something called a Foodmobile, where we took a 16-passenger shuttle bus, gutted out the seats, and turned it into a food shelf on wheels. And so we can take the food shelf to people who need the support, whether they have a barrier around transportation or health, or it's really difficult for one reason or another for them to get to our bricks and mortar food shelf sites. So we launched that program in 2015, just 5 years ago. And then at our 80th anniversary gala this past September, we did the fundraising for a second Foodmobile because that program has been so successful. So we have already purchased a larger vehicle. So our first vehicle was 24 feet. This one is now 32 feet. And we are in the process of retrofitting that vehicle to have 2 of them on the road out serving more people in need. Back to your question about working with colleges. So we're currently working with 3 colleges in our area: St. Paul College, University of St. Thomas, and Hamline University.
Okay.
And it might be surprising that even those private colleges with high tuition, there is still need in their student body. A need that I was surprised by.
And do you also work with organizations that might service different clientele that you might be wanting to reach, like, so for example, elderly people, or also there are some groups that work with like veterans that are like suffering homelessness, or just the homeless in general?
Our Foodmobile currently works with one program for people who are homeless and also experiencing severe mental illness issues. And we are working with a few senior high-rises to bring that food shelf service to them so they don't have to work through those transportation barriers. And we're working on a few other plans to do outreach with the senior community also.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, that comes to the conclusion of our interview. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Arthur.